Ever driven on a smooth, freshly paved road and thought, wow, this is the life? Well, today we're diving deep into the world of the people who make those satisfyingly smooth rides a reality. Asphalt Laboratory Technicians.
Hmm.
You've got a stack of your research right here, from industry trends to potential interview questions. It seems like you're ready to trade in your current ride for a career path paved with, well, asphalt.
That's what it looks like. And based on this information, it could be a smart move.
Okay.
The construction industry is booming, and the demand for skilled asphalt professionals is right there alongside it.
Now, that's something worth paying attention to, especially if you're considering a career shift. But this isn't just about jumping on a hot job market. We've got to unpack what these asphalt whisperers really do. I'm curious, is it all lab coats and beakers, or is there more to it than meets the eye?
You hit the nail on the head with more than meets the eye. While lab work is definitely a big part of it, asphalt lab technicians are involved in a much wider range of tasks than you might think.
Uh-huh.
Think of it like this. They're the quality control experts throughout the entire asphalt life cycle.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Walk me through that. What does that life cycle look like?
It starts with inspecting the raw materials. Before any asphalt is even mixed, these technicians are testing things like aggregates, that's the gravel, sand, and crushed rock, making sure they meet specific quality and grading standards. Then they dive into the asphalt itself, running tests for things like viscosity and density.
Hold on, viscosity, density. For those of us who barely passed high school chemistry, could you give us a refresh on what those terms actually mean in this context?
Absolutely. Imagine honey slowly dripping off a spoon. That's high viscosity. Water, on the other hand, has a much lower viscosity because it flows quickly. When it comes to asphalt, technicians need to ensure it has the right viscosity for the specific application.
Okay.
A sidewalk will need a different consistency than, say, a highway.
So it's not just one size fits all asphalt.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Each project has unique requirements. That's where density comes in.
Okay.
Imagine two boxes, both the same size.
Okay.
One is filled with feathers, the other with bricks. The brick box is much denser.
Right.
Asphalt lab technicians need to make sure the asphalt mix has the right density to withstand the weight and pressure of traffic without deforming or cracking.
Wow, so they really are like asphalt detectives analyzing clues to make sure everything measures up. But the research also mentioned something about troubleshooting on construction sites. That doesn't sound very lab-like.
You're right, they aren't confined to a lab. Asphalt lab technicians might be on site, observing the asphalt being laid down, making sure it's compacted correctly, or even taking samples from the road to bring back and analyze.
Mm-hmm.
They are the eyes and ears, ensuring the asphalt is performing as it should from the lab to the actual road.
So it's a mix of hands-on work and detailed analysis.
Yeah,
I bet that keeps things interesting.
definitely.
But let's talk about what everyone wants to know. What's the earning potential like for these asphalt gurus?
One of the biggest perks you'll find in the research is the earning potential. Asphalt lab technicians are in high demand, and that translates to competitive salaries often exceeding the national average for similar skilled trades.
No, that's what I call paving the way to a good living. A good salary is always a plus, but it's not the only thing that matters. What about the other, like, pros and cons of this line of work?
It's true, a fulfilling career is about more than just a paycheck, and this field offers a lot of those less tangible rewards. The work itself is hands-on and engaging. You're not stuck behind a desk all day. Plus, there's a real sense of accomplishment in knowing you're building something tangible that benefits everyone.
Right.
Every road, every bridge, you're a part of that.
Yeah, there's something to be said for seeing the results of your work out in the world. But the research also mentioned some potential downsides. It wouldn't be a deep dive if we didn't explore those as well.
Right. It's important to keep a balanced perspective. One thing the research highlighted is the potential exposure to hazardous materials. Asphalt is a complex mix, and some of its components require careful handling and safety precautions.
So safety first is key. What about the work-life balance aspect?
That's another factor to consider. Construction is a demanding field, often with long and sometimes unpredictable hours, especially during peak seasons. You might need to be flexible and put in extra time to meet project deadlines.
It sounds like you need to be comfortable with a little bit of organized chaos in your work life. But hey, variety is the spice of life, right? Speaking of which, let's talk about career progression. The research mentioned starting as a junior technician and working your way up. What does that career ladder look like?
It's a well-defined path, which can be appealing for those who like to see the steps laid out. You typically start as a junior technician, learning the ropes from more experienced colleagues, mastering the testing procedures, and getting a feel for the industry's standards.
It's like an apprenticeship for asphalt. What comes after that initial stage?
As you gain experience and knowledge, you could advance to a senior technician role.
Okay.
At that level, you're not just performing tests, you're also starting to analyze data, identify trends, maybe even training and overseeing the work of junior technicians.
So more responsibility and a chance to mentor others, always a good sign of career growth. What about those at the very top of their game? What does a leadership position look like in this field?
That's where the lab manager role comes in. They are responsible for the overall efficiency and accuracy of the lab. They're managing budgets, ensuring compliance with all those industry standards we keep mentioning, and even collaborating directly with project managers on technical issues.
It sounds like a great blend of technical expertise and leadership skills.
Yeah.
So for our listener who is thinking, okay, this sounds promising, but do I have what it takes? What are those essential skills and personality traits that would make someone successful as an asphalt lab technician?
Well, if you were designing the ideal candidate, attention to detail would be at the top of the list. Remember, these technicians are working with precise measurements and strict protocols. One small error could have a big impact on the final product.
I can see that. No room for winging it in this line of work. What else?
A love for science and a knack for problem solving go hand in hand in this role. You're constantly analyzing data, interpreting results, and figuring out why something isn't working as it should. It's a bit like being a detective, but instead of solving crimes, you're solving asphalt mysteries.
That's a great way to put it. I bet strong communication skills are also crucial, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You're working with a team, dealing with suppliers, maybe even interacting with clients.
You're spot on. Being able to clearly and concisely communicate your findings, both verbally and in writing, is essential. And of course, teamwork is huge in construction. You've got to be able to collaborate effectively, share information, and work together to achieve a common goal.
That makes sense. You're all working towards that same smooth road.
Exactly.
But we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on the technological advancements that are shaping the future of this industry. The research mentioned something called BIM, which I'll admit I needed a bit of a refresher on.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
BIM.
Yeah.
It stands for Building Information Modeling, and it's revolutionizing how we design, construct, and manage built and infrastructure.
Right.
Imagine a digital 3D model of a building or a road before a single brick is laid or a shovelful of dirt is moved.
So instead of just blueprints, we're talking about a virtual representation of the entire project.
Exactly. And it's not just a visual thing. BIM incorporates all sorts of data materials, costs, schedules, sustainability factors. And it allows everyone involved in the project to access and share that information in real time.
Okay. Now that's what I call smart construction. But how does this BIM thing connect back to our asphalt lab technicians?
Great question. Remember how we talked about asphalt lab technicians needing to ensure the materials meet specific requirements?
Right.
With BIM, those requirements are even more precise and integrated into the overall project plan. So our technicians aren't just testing materials in isolation. They're testing in the context of this larger digital model, ensuring everything aligns perfectly.
So it's not just about physical testing anymore. You need to understand and work with digital tools as well. That's fascinating. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about another major trend shaping the industry: sustainability. I'm curious, can something like asphalt, which we typically associate with oil and fossil fuels, really be sustainable?
That's a question a lot of people are asking, and the research suggests that the answer is a resounding yes. We're seeing incredible innovation in the field of sustainable asphalt solutions. It's becoming more common to use recycled materials like ground-up rubber from old tires or recycled glass right in the asphalt mix.
So you can pave a road with old tires. Now that's what I call resourcefulness. What are some of the other ways they're making asphalt more eco-friendly?
Well, for starters, there's warm mix asphalt. It's produced at lower temperatures, which means less energy use and fewer emissions during production. Plus, the research highlighted some really cutting-edge advancements in biobinders, which are derived from plants instead of petroleum, further reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
That's incredible. It sounds like the future of asphalt is pretty bright and green. I'm really seeing how this isn't just a job, it's a chance to be a part of a much larger movement towards a more sustainable future.
Exactly, and that's what makes this such an exciting field to be in right now. There's so much potential for growth, innovation, and yes, even making a positive impact on the environment.
Now, before we move on to the interview prep portion of our deep dive, there's one more question I have about the work itself. We've talked a lot about testing, but what are some of the specific challenges an asphalt lab technician might face on a day-to-day basis? What keeps them on their toes?
Well, one of the most common challenges is dealing with variability.
Oh,
Even if you're following a strict formula and using high-quality materials, there can be subtle variations in things like temperature, humidity, or the properties of the raw materials themselves that can affect the final product.
so it's not as simple as just following a recipe.
Precisely. Asphalt lab technicians need to be highly adaptable and have strong problem-solving skills to identify those variations and make adjustments on the fly to ensure the asphalt meets the required specifications.
So it's a bit like being a chef.
Yes.
You need to adjust your recipe based on the ingredients and the environment to create a perfect dish, or in this case, a perfect road surface.
Exactly. And that's what makes it such a challenging and rewarding field.
Speaking of challenges, let's talk about those interview questions you mentioned earlier. I'm sure our listener is eager to know what kind of questions to expect and how to really knock their answers out of the park.
Of course, being prepared is key. One common question you'll likely encounter is about your experience with ASTM standards and procedures.
Okay, I have to confess I had to look up ASTM earlier. Acronyms are my kryptonite.
Right.
For those who might be wondering the same thing, could you give us a quick refresher?
Absolutely. ASTM stands for the American Society for Testing and Materials. They're kind of like the rule makers for a wide range of materials, including asphalt. They develop and publish the standards for testing everything from the viscosity and density we talked about earlier to more specialized tests that assess things like durability, skid resistance, and even how well the asphalt holds up under different weather conditions.
So knowing your ASTM standards is essential for speaking the language of asphalt, right?
Precisely. It's how you demonstrate to potential employers that you understand the industry's best practices and that you can be trusted to produce accurate and reliable results.
That makes sense. What are some other questions they should be prepared for?
Don't be surprised if they ask you to walk them through specific tests you've conducted, like the viscosity test or the penetration test. They'll want to know that you're familiar with the equipment, the procedures, and that you understand how to interpret the results.
So it's not just about memorizing a list of tests, but really understanding the why behind each one and what it tells you about the asphalt. What else?
They'll also want to assess your experience with lab equipment and software.
Because even the world of asphalt isn't immune to the digital revolution, right?
Yeah, exactly. They might ask about your experience with data analysis software, digital imaging tools used to examine asphalt samples, or even BIM software, which we touched on earlier.
So being tech savvy is a definite plus in this field. Any curveballs they should be prepared for.
They might ask about a time you encountered a problem on a construction site or in the lab and how you handled it. Employers want to see that you can think critically, troubleshoot effectively, and work independently or as part of a team to find solutions.
That makes sense. They want someone who can handle the unexpected, which, let's be honest, is bound to happen in a field like construction. Any final words of wisdom for acing those interviews?
Be enthusiastic, show them you're genuinely interested in the field, don't be afraid to ask questions and let your passion shine through.
That's great advice for any interview, but especially in a field like this where passion and a willingness to learn can really set you apart. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the ins and outs of the job itself to the broader industry trends shaping the future of asphalt. But before we wrap things up, let's leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question to ponder. We've talked about sustainable asphalt and the use of recycled materials.
And those advancements got me thinking, this research, it's like a snapshot
Yeah.
of where things are right now. But what about like 5, 10 years down the line? Imagine being at the forefront of that, like evolution, developing new materials, techniques.
Right.
That could revolutionize like the entire construction industry.
There's that forward-thinking perspective I always appreciate. So we're not just talking about testing existing materials, we're talking about potentially inventing the next generation of asphalt altogether.
Yeah.
Precisely. And with, climate change, sustainable infrastructure, the demand for professionals who can kind of bridge that gap between traditional methods and these cutting-edge solutions is only going to increase.
So if you're someone who gets excited about science, loves to solve problems, and wants to make a tangible difference in the world, this could be the perfect career path to explore further.
And who knows, maybe someday you'll be the one passing on your expertise
Right.
to the next generation of asphalt innovators, shaping the future of how we build and connect our world, quite literally from the ground up.
Now, that's a legacy worth striving for. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of asphalt lab technicians. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the day-to-day realities of the job to the industry's exciting future.
Remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. Keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and most importantly,
Yeah.
never stop learning. The future of asphalt, and perhaps even your future within it, is ripe with possibilities.
And on that note of endless possibilities, we'll sign off for today. Happy paving.